Here, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I think I'm live. Let me just double check. Make sure I don't have any technical difficulties here. It says it's loading. Perfect. Okay, now I can see myself. So basically, what I wanted to talk to you guys today is about cold calling. And I know that there might be some fear in terms of how to do that and when to do that in your classrooms. So I just kind of wanted to share a little bit of information about how I do it. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So the first thing is with cold calling for me, I have to begin the school year, right, with the belief that all of my students want their voices to be heard. I have to start with that belief. All my students, whether they're extroverts, introverts, or something completely different, everybody needs and wants to be heard, right? And a lot of kids haven't been given that opportunity to have their voices truly heard in the classroom, right? And then I also start with the belief that when I cold call and I do it the correct way, I'm also teaching the other students how to listen when someone is giving an answer. And this in turn instills respect and empathy and also the social values that my classroom really needs to thrive. So that's where I start the school year, right? And I have to remind myself of this sometimes because there are times where, cold calling can be challenging, right? Or there are times where, maybe it's just easier to allow kind of the high flying students in my class to just kind of raise their hand and answer all of the questions. It's too easy, right, to slip into that kind of mindset. So I have to remind myself all my students want their voices to be heard and they need it, right? And when I do cold call, I'm instilling these super critical values that my classroom needs to thrive, right? So I have to remind myself of that so that I don't slip into these sort of bad habits. The next thing is that cold calls also, in my view, they invite the students to start academic and scholarly conversations, right? While also maintaining that culture of warmth and support that they need. And I know for me, it's kind of funny because in the beginning of the year, during parent-teacher night, before the students have actually officially come to school and they're meeting us for the first time, I do let my students and their parents know that I cold call because it's not a common practice where I work, and I don't know that the students really have had any experience with it. And for some of them who have had experience with cold calling, it's usually been a negative thing. It's usually been a punitive thing where the teacher sometimes will use cold calling as a way to embarrass the students or kind of show that they don't really know things, right? They'll choose a student that they know doesn't know the answer or whatever the case is to kind of humiliate them in front of the students. And that is something that's totally inappropriate. So for some students, either they haven't experienced cold calling at all, or for many of them, their experience with it has been negative and sometimes even traumatizing. So for me, I do let the parents and the students know that cold calling is a part of how I teach it and that it's such a fundamental element to my students' success. And that's the reason why I'm telling them, right? And it's kind of interesting because the faces of everyone, especially mostly the students, but when I tell everyone that I cold call, the faces of the students usually go from like kind of nervous uncertainty because, they're meeting their teachers for the first time and all that kind of stuff. And it goes from that to like outright fear, right? They're petrified. So the question really is, how do I get the students comfortable with this idea? Well, I want to talk to you more specifically about that. So if this is something that you want to try in your classroom, just send me a DM, or you can go ahead and book a call in the link above, and I will give you some key information I think will be transformative in your classroom and really help you get the ball rolling in this area, regardless of what you teach, whether it's foreign language or math or anything else. I think I can really help you with that. In fact, I know I can. So also, another reason why I do cold calling in my class is that I don't just want asymmetrical learning. So what do I mean by asymmetrical learning? What I mean is that I don't want the same few kids calling out the answers all the time, right? Now, the question is, do I always cold call? No. Do I let things happen organically in my classroom at times? Of course, right? However, for me personally, I've in 7 years of teaching, I've never really taught a class where there weren't at least a select few students who would easily dominate the conversation in the classroom if I allowed it. Easily. If I allowed it, this would happen in every single classroom, every single class that I've taught in 7 years. This would most definitely happen. So if I allowed the select few students in my classroom to dominate the conversation, this would permit, the other students to sort of fade quietly in the background, right? And then they would sort of start becoming passive learners, and they might not feel that I noticed them, and they might not put forth the same level of effort as my other students are doing because they think that I'm not really paying attention to them, and the truth of the matter is that I'm not doing my job if I'm not giving them a voice in my class. That's how I feel anyway. So also, one of the reasons why I do cold calling is because it if I don't do it, what happens is that it promotes the idea of exclusivity in my class, right? And none of us want that. So what does that mean? Well, specifically, it means that there are only certain students, right? Those with a predisposition, to learn languages, or they have those students who have a solid foundation for learning languages, or maybe they just have an extroverted personality. Just those students really could perform well and at the highest level. And so I don't want my class to be exclusive. And the fact of the matter is that it would, because my attention would naturally divert to them, and I would miss out on the teacher, and the class would miss out on all these hidden gems, right, in the minds of the other students. And so for me, I just can't, I can't reconcile that. I just can't do that. So if I truly want to be an inclusive, socially conscious, and equitable teacher, this is something that I need to do for me. Right. So if you have questions about that, I just invite you to go ahead and book a free call with me where we can talk more about the planning process for this and other things as well if you need that. And I can show you specifically how I get the best results out of my kids, everything from grading to lessons to specific activities that help the students write better and comprehend the information better, all those different types of things. So if you need a little bit of support with that, just go ahead and book a call, or you can DM me on Facebook, and either way that works fine with me. And you can do that by clicking the link in the chat, and I look forward to talking with you very soon. So I will see you soon. Bye for now.